Welcome everyone to Social Media 101, presented by Adaptive. I want to thank everyone for being here. And specifically first, I want to just thank a few specific groups. First of all, our clients at Adaptive. I know many of you are on or still coming on, but this is the first time we've done anything agency-wide, so bringing everyone together. This is pretty exciting for JC and myself, so we want to welcome our clients. Next, I want to welcome all the members of Insight Performance Group, our special guests from Insight, for joining us here today. And special thanks to Insight and Ernestine for bringing all this together and getting us online. So wanted to first just say hello and let you know who's driving this this digital train today. This is Patrick Sickens. I am founder and CEO of Adaptive Inbound Marketing Solutions, and wanted to just reach out and say hello before we jumped into this. So let me give you just a little bit of the ground rules and sort of the why we're doing a social media session in the first place. We had a lot of our clients that we're doing work for that had individuals inside the organization asking us for help with a lot of the basics, the 101 type stuff as far as social media, how to tweet, how to share things. And we started looking at this from an individual basis and thought it would be a really great idea to bring everyone together. So today is really about the basics. We're not going to get into much theory on social media and how it ties to marketing or anything like that. It's really going to be about the basics to help you be more efficient, maybe a little bit better than you already are, or if you're even trying to break into social media, to really give you the basics on how to use social media, how to get your personal brand out there, and how you can also help amplify the message that your organization is sending. So again, very much the basics. If you feel like you're a master of social media, then perhaps this is not the right session for you. You may get a little bored. I also understand, just real briefly, that some of the attendees that we have today manage not only their personal social media accounts, but they may have full responsibility or a little bit of responsibility in managing the company or the agency's social media. So I'm going to hit on a few things just to show a little bit of the differences on how to manage it, but we're really taking this opportunity today to make sure that we're hitting this from a personal standpoint. So if you're looking for help on how to make your agency, brokerage, or company more effective online, this is not the session for you. So with that, we do want to make this interactive. As much as I love sitting here and just talking without Q&A, which I don't, this is going to be a session where it's going to be hands-on learning. So I'll be doing a lot of the poking around and showing you some things, but we do want to leave some time for question and answer at the end. So a few ways that we can do that. Number one is in your GoToMeeting chat pane. If you either ask a question to all, or if you direct it directly to JC, who is my partner and COO here at Adaptive, she'll be monitoring the chat pane, and we'll get some of those available for you at the end. If you're feeling brave and want to give social media a try while we're on the session, you can actually tweet at us at AdaptiveIMS, or use the hashtag Social101, or if you really don't want to do it, you can certainly email JC at AdaptiveIMS as well. So with that, the only other thing I want to mention is if you're taking notes or don't want to take notes, either way, we will be sending out the presentation deck after we wrap up here. So let's begin. Okay, so with social media, again, I don't want to get too far into the theory of social media, but I do want to hit on social media in general before we start digging into specifics. And really, the intent of social media is to be social. And I know that sounds a little childish and a little, maybe even direct, but the whole idea of social media, it really has evolved a lot, obviously, over the last few years, but the basic premise of any social network that you're on is to be social. It's to connect with people. It's to get out there and understand who people are and share who you are with a very large group of people. And so a lot of times people will come to us, and it's very overwhelming, especially with the amount of things that can be done and some of the questions on privacy and lack of control and all that. But it's an overwhelming landscape. And so people, when we talk to clients and potential clients and individuals in the marketplace about social media and why they should use it, at the basic level, it's about the opportunity that you all have to go to where your network is. It's for you to connect with employees, with clients, with vendors, with partners. It's for you to connect with these people at a much deeper level and learn more than you ever could in 100 conversations with someone. And it's also about the opportunity for you to connect with your potential network, to go where your potential clients are, your potential network could be, and connecting with them and showing up online as well. And we actually hit on this, and so when we look at, okay, if you're going to join social media, whatever network you decide to join, how do you do it? And again, we're going to talk about the basic skills that you need to be efficient and effective online, but how should you interact online? And we actually hit on this in my book Brand Aid, but there's 7 types of social media personas that we outlined. And what I'm going to encourage you to do today and throughout this session and after the session, once you start becoming a social media superstar, is really be an observer and a commenter. Observe what's going on with the people you're connected to, comment and interact with people, and show that you're taking an interest in what other people are doing. It's all going to be about brand awareness, showing up in these people's digital lives, and it's about you being relevant online. So, like I said, we're not going to spend too much time on the corporate aspects of social media, but I did want to hit on the difference between the company that is yours, that you lead, or the company that you're involved in, and your personal accounts. And what we see with what we do at Adaptive and what we do with our clients is, marketing only has so much reach and availability of resources, because your organization and whatever marketing is, whether that's an internal marketing source, external, outsource, whatever it is, they really only have the ability to reach out to the network that is connected to the corporate accounts. And so this image of the different ripples and the different droplets of water show that there really is the opportunity for an amplification of message. And so if you are helping promote the content that your company is putting out, you have the ability to reach a much broader audience. And sure, just like the picture shows, there's going to be some overlap, but if you're authentic and if you're personalizing what you're saying, the overlap's not going to matter. And again, you're going to have a much better opportunity to reach a much larger audience. And it really can be a mutually beneficial relationship between what your organization and what you're doing personally. So I want to encourage you, let's think about how you can help in that mutually beneficial relationship to help the agency and vice versa. Okay, so today, what we want to do is go through, and we chose the big 3, as they're called, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And before we go through the purpose of each and how to use them, I do want to bring up just a few other networks that I think are relevant. And so if you feel like you're proficient in a few of the ones that we're going to cover, or you just want to explore the different networks out there, things that I would consider to this group would be looking at Google+, looking at Instagram, looking at YouTube or Vimeo, possibly getting on Pinterest, and the final one would be about.me. Other fantastic networks, but today, again, if we're looking at this from a pure social media 101 standpoint, we want to focus on the big 3. So LinkedIn is our smiling young professionals there, and it really is. It's the professional network, and we'll get into more of what that means. But the persona and the presence that you need to have on LinkedIn needs to be highly, highly professional. There's really no room on LinkedIn for pictures of your kids or your cat or anything like that. It is about sharing personal, professional information. Facebook is more the blended of the two, I believe. The guy sitting there on the beach, he's still looking pretty corporate and professional from the waist up, but he's sitting on a beach. Facebook's the lighter side. It's about sharing more about the personal side of you as a person, while also sharing a lot of your professional accomplishments and content that you're putting out there. And then finally, Twitter is the last one we're going to hit, and that's about the conversation. It's not, with all of these, certainly social media is not about blasting your message and showing people how important you are or how important you think you are. It's all about, again, observing and commenting. But Twitter really, is a great opportunity for you to have quick snippet conversations with your network. So again, today we're going to hit on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Again, the other ones to consider they'll be in the deck, so we don't have to hit those again. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm going to actually pop out of the presentation portion of this, and we're going to get some real world application. Let me make sure I can do this correctly. And you should be seeing LinkedIn. So what I did is I actually loaded these up with just a few minutes to go before the top of the hour at 1 o'clock Eastern, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to show something that shows the speed at which information happens. All these were pulled up, about 15 to 20 minutes ago. You can see there's already 20 plus new messages on LinkedIn, and 178 tweets have gone up in that short amount of time. And so when we talk about being relevant, there's so much information for you to interact with, both from your connections. We also have to understand that, one thing that you put up there really doesn't have a very long shelf life. And I'm not one of those, high power social media users that has thousands and thousands and thousands of Twitter accounts I follow. It's under 1,000. But information moves fast. And so I wanted to use that as an example. Okay. So let's start with LinkedIn. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this to get us up to our current timeline. Okay, so back into the practical application of ways to use LinkedIn effectively. The first thing I want to mention is before you do any kind of editing to your account, and what I mean by editing is not posting something. I'm talking, quite literally about, going in and changing, the area you are, the market you're in, your background information, anything like that, your profile picture. What you want to do is you want to go in, and where you see notify your network, you want to turn that off, because what's going to happen is as you're going through, let's say you make 10 different changes, that's all going to show up in people's news feeds, and they really don't need to know that you've changed, your location from Charlottesville to Charlottesville, Virginia. It's very irrelevant, and it will clog up their newsfeed. So turn them off and then turn it back on when you're ready to publish changes that you've made. When you're getting set up, or if you're trying to be more effective, you want to make sure that your profile is set up as best you can. So you can see LinkedIn does a fantastic job of telling you how you're doing as far as where your profile strength is. Do you have to do everything? No. And I think this is a clear example of I've got a little piece that they say I could be doing better, but there's some information I just don't feel like sharing. And that's okay. You need to fill this out as completely as you can to give people the opportunity to learn more about you. So make sure that you complete everything and you maximize your profile as much as possible with current position, previous position, your education, where you are, the industry you're in, and really do a good job of having a summary and making sure that you have skills and endorsements out there if you're allowed. I know our financial service clients cannot, our financial advisors, but most other industries allow you to do so. One thing that we've heard a lot, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to move this over because the go to meeting chat. Oh, there we go. Let me just do this real quick. One thing that we've seen quite a bit is up here in the little notification center. When we typically come on with a new client, we see this little shadowy figure with the plus. This is connections, and if you have a red number there, that means someone's trying to connect with you. This needs to be monitored as much as possible. There's quite honestly not been a time where we've gone into someone's personal account, especially at the executive C-suite level, and they don't have a massive amount of people that have connected and their requests are just sitting there pending. These are people trying to connect with you, and you need to accept them. I'm not saying go out there and accept every single person. If it's a shadowy figure from a different country that doesn't really seem like it's a legitimate connection request, then you don't have to do that. But connect with people that are real people and they want to connect with you. It's a great opportunity for you to expand your reach, grow your network. and it should be done. So basically, any notifications up here should be looked at on a regular basis. Okay, as far as interactions, what I wanted to do is just kind of go through just very quickly about the ways to interact with someone. So we'll take, Steve Farnsworth here shows up, and he shared an article from Business Insider. And so the three different things that you can see that you can do with what someone posts are the following. You can like it, and liking means you basically endorse it and say, hey, I like this article. I'm glad you shared it. Thank you so much. Commenting is if you have something to say about it, you can comment on that specific post to that person. This is a great way, again, to show up in people's digital lives. So, let them know that you are, you have an ear out for what they're doing, and you appreciate the work that they're putting in online. It's a great way for you to show up, as far as brand awareness in their lives as well. And the third thing that you can do is share. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But those are really the basics of what you can do when someone posts something. So I want to go back up, and I want to hit the two different sides. So, a lot of times people say, okay, I want to put something out on LinkedIn. How the heck do I do it? And what I'm going to go through now is similar for the most part across platform. We'll get into the little intricacies here as we go through the session, but how to post something. So there are two different, and by different I mean dramatically different ways that you can share content, original content on LinkedIn. The first is sharing an update. So you can click on share an update, and you can see you can share it with the public, you can share it with just your connections, or you can actually add, if you have your Twitter account connected, you can share it there as well. So let's say, for instance, my good friend JC put up a blog that I found to be very helpful. It's, if someone's looking to start blogging, and I say, wow, this is a great article, I'd like to share it. All you have to do, of course, you can just hit the little share icons, but if you want to be in LinkedIn, you can copy the URL, you can go in, and you can share the update. And I could say, great post by Jennifer Costarino, and then I paste the link, and there we go, which we'll do now. So what happens with that is it shows up that I posted it, and it goes into the newsfeed. As you can see, it's right here. It'll show up in people's timelines, and that's about it. And it goes on, the information continues to flow. There's, again, a big difference between what I just did and publishing a post. This is a great opportunity for anyone online here that wants to start creating content, as far as blog content or articles, but the company doesn't have a blog, or your strategy doesn't allow for individual people to contribute to the agency's blog or social media. A post is completely different from a status update in the fact that this is really a publishing platform created by LinkedIn that allows you to write long-form content. So you can go in, you can write your headline, and you publish it. The great thing about this is your connections on LinkedIn will get specific notification up here that you've posted, that you've actually posted on LinkedIn, as opposed to just sharing an update. So what I would say is, from the two differences, sharing an update is not going to hit as wide of an audience. These are things that you should share. Again, share that you liked, a company blog, or that there's some newsworthy event. Very short little information pieces. A post is where you want to share something much larger. So again, very big difference between the two, and we see it abused a lot. We see people say, hey, we just won a great award, for best places to work. That's not a publish a post type piece of content. That's share an update with your network. So very big difference. The other things I want to touch on real quickly with LinkedIn. Make sure you go in with all your settings that they're appropriate. You have your privacy settings set. You have different email addresses connected, and people can find you because of your phone number, your company, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, um, and go from there. Now, one thing that I did in there that I want to touch on real quickly is tagging in posts. Again, pretty much across platform. If you want to give recognition to the person that you're highlighting or the company that you're highlighting, all you have to do is start with at. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring up and it's going to start suggesting, actually an example. That's not going to let me do it. Oh, there it was. So now that would give notification to whoever, obviously in this case it would be myself and JC, that someone is talking about you. So you can do this with, again, with employees, with other connections, with clients. If Adaptive was one of your clients, you could say, hey, at Adaptive, way to go on your social media session or whatever. So it's a way to show people that you really are paying attention to them and you're giving them credit online. Okay, the final thing with LinkedIn, please, 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 please make sure that you go in and I'll go right down here and grab your vanity URL. Let me go back. You'll see it right down here. It's linkedin.com/in/Patrick Sickens. This is a way for people to easily find you. If you have a very long URL, the generic one that's created by LinkedIn, not a great thing from an SEO perspective. There's numerous different reasons to do it, but please make sure you go and grab that. If you don't know how, ask Google. Google, how do I grab my vanity or custom URL on LinkedIn, and it'll walk you right through it. Okay. We're going to jump off LinkedIn now. We're going to head on over to Facebook. As we go through the 3 different platforms, I want to make sure I address something from it's not necessarily theory, but something that we believe wholeheartedly in, both from a corporate standpoint and a personal branding standpoint, is there needs to be consistency across your platform. I'll jump out of personal for a second, but if you control the agency's brand or even your personal brand, people need to see the same thing. They need to have the same experience. They need to see the same type of information across the board, whether they're on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on your website, on your personal blog. It all needs to be very, very similar. It can't be a very different experience for someone that's looking for you, because if they're out there searching for you, they're going to look at a few different places, and you want to make sure that the message that you're sending is consistent across the board. Okay, so over to Facebook. Again, first thing you want to do is make sure that your profile is complete. Tell people about where you work, where you went to school, where you live. Different people are more comfortable than not at sharing, a lot of personal details. So share what you're comfortable with, but make sure that it's complete enough that people can find you. The next thing on Facebook is, again, this is more the personal side of things. However, we've had this argument, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, but the idea that Facebook is really, there's no place for business on Facebook, which is just, it's quite honestly, it's crazy. Your personal life and your professional life, there really is a gray line there, and there's no separation anymore. So I encourage you, make connections with the people that you have in your professional life, because you can get deeper connections and deeper relationships with people the more they know about you and the more you know about them. So I would highly recommend that put things out there that you would be proud of if it hit the newspapers or any other online outlet, but certainly encourage you to connect with professional connections, even on Facebook. So as far as how to use Facebook, again, very similar to what we just went through with LinkedIn, and the fact that, let me go down and find something. Let's say, there we go, Jacksonville Jaguars, Maurice Jones-Drew makes it official, he's now retired. 3 different things you can do. You can like it, says, "Yep, I think that's a great post." You can comment on it and wish MJD all success moving forward, or you can share it. Now, here's where the one of those points in the presentation where I want to kind of step out of the personal side of things and just show you, if you control your company or agency's social media, how you can do this. So to share it, I could share this. And what we see a lot of times is people just click share and hit post and that's it. There's nothing personal that comes from that. So your network wants to know why the heck you would share that. And so you could say, congrats. This may take a while to, oh, get up there. There you go. As an example. So now my connections know, hey, obviously a Jags fan, watched MJD play for years and years and years. That's why he shared it. So the point here is, if you're going to share something, say something. Don't just share it for sharing's sake. And that's, across the board. So same thing, if I were to go into our account, this week in marketing, if I wanted to share that, make sure you say something about it, not just that, hey, I just shared this. People want to know why you're doing what you're doing online, and you need to tell them why. As far as stepping out of the personal for a second, you can actually share on a page you manage. So you could share this on, I'll use Insight, since we have a lot of Insight members out here. If I want to share this on behalf of Insight, I could share it. So there are ways to toggle between your personal account and the way that you are managing your corporate social media. The other thing, just while we're on the fact of toggling between, again, if you manage a corporate social media presence, specifically with Facebook, make sure you're liking and commenting appropriately. As an example, Adaptive would not necessarily like their own posts that they put up, but I would. And so if I click over to me, I can now like on behalf of myself personally, not as the agency. And we see that done incorrectly quite a bit. So if you do have access, to the admin rights on any of the corporate social media that's out there, just make sure you're liking and you're commenting correctly. Don't comment on something on Facebook thinking it's yourself, but you're really commenting on behalf of the company overall. Back over to profile, the other thing I want to show you as far as privacy settings are concerned, a lot of the best posts that Adaptive does for our clients is when we tag either the person that wrote it, or if there's some newsworthy event about someone specifically, we tend to tag those people, because not only are the connections to the corporate account going to see that, but if we tag the person, their network sees it as well. The way that you do that is, depending on your privacy settings, you may allow everything, or you may need to go in and approve when people comment or post about you. So you can see, for example, someone mentioned it was my anniversary of my wife over the weekend, and my sister-in-law said, hey, happy anniversary. It's allowed on my timeline. Well, if it's not, and I needed to approve, I could go in and say, no, I don't want that on my timeline, or report it, or allow it. So just make sure that you understand your privacy settings, and if people are allowed to post on your behalf, what I would recommend is approve, set it so you have to approve everything. But just to give you an example, I'm going to brag about one of our clients real quick. Dave Reedy, from Henderson Insurance up in Saskatchewan, won Business Leader of the Year. When we first posted it, we had a pretty good reach as far as how many people saw the post. But then when we tagged Dave specifically in the post, it got a lot of great traction. You can see over 1,200 people saw that post. We actually had a really good click-through rate over to the blog that we wrote on it. So your company can do these types of things and give you credit personally, or again, if you're managing the corporate stuff, then you can do that for the employees in your organization. But just make sure you understand personally your privacy settings, so you know what's going to show up and what's not. And then again, back to my point to close out this social media network is make sure that you claim a specific URL. So you can see mine is /Patrick Sickens, not 5634224, whatever. So again, very, very kind of straightforward and basic stuff, but things that we get questions on quite a bit. And moving over to the 255 Twitter messages that have happened in the last 30 or 40 minutes. My goodness. Okay, let me pop over to my profile. Again, I hope you're seeing some of the consistency. Same profile image, same header image, same types of information that I've shared. So again, just make sure that it is filled out. It's filled out correctly. Make sure that you give credit if you want to the organization you work for. Make sure that you have a relevant link that someone could find out more about you. Just make sure that everything's updated. That's the biggest key. There's one thing I do want to mention here about while we're sitting on the profile is the difference between the name and your @. Your name, I'm very lucky that I have, the name that I do, Patrick Sickens. Not very common, and I'm, as far as I know, the only one in the world that is named Patrick Sickens, which is great for me. But if your name is something that's a little bit more common, like John Smith, Jane Doe, etc., there's a really good chance that your name has already been claimed. So twitter.com/John Smith, that's probably already been claimed. And so to understand, you can actually still say, this is John Smith as your name, but your @ is going to be, so your URL is going to be slightly different. I'll show you an example. Good friend Dean DeCamera. Not a common name, but he was trying to be a little different, and it worked out. So he is a work comp specialist, so he did the work, at Work Comp Coach. As you can see, his URL is Work Comp Coach, but it's still, Dean DeCamera. So you can still find Dean if you type in his name, but it's just a different, different URL. So again, just make sure you understand the difference between the two. It will certainly help you. Now, going back. So let's talk about actually posting something. Again, we'll go back to the wonderful post that JC did on how to start blogging and getting blogging success. If that's something I want to share, the first thing I'd want to do is say, great post. I would do something more impactful usually, but since we're doing this off the cuff, we'll just do it like this. So as you can see, great post at JC, and that's saying, hey, giving credit to her, and she'll get notification that I'm sharing her content. And there we go. Now, one thing to really keep in mind, and this is something that it's been publicized quite a bit, but it's still widely misused. The difference between what I just did with great post at JC and a post like this. The difference between the two are this. With great post at JC, anyone that follows me has the potential to see that post, okay? If I start it with at JC without a character before the at, only JC and or people that follow both of us are going to see that. So where this comes into play is if I said adaptive, great post, only people that I'm connected to that both like or that are both connected to adaptive are going to see that post. If your intent is to get this out to your entire network, all you have to do is put anything in front of the at. It can be a period. It could be great post. But as long as there's something before the at, your entire network is going to see that. So just a nice little tip and trick to keep in mind. but again, something that you want to keep in mind. The other thing, as far as expanding reach, you can go into notifications. You can see, who's favoriting your stuff, who's liking your stuff, who's connecting with you, who's sharing, who's doing all these different things. And so it'll help you as far as what's actually going on. Am I being relevant online? Are people favoriting? Are they liking? Are they sharing? So, it's just a great way to understand what is really going on online. Now, real quickly, again, just to show how to share content. I'll go ahead and pop over. And this doesn't have to be done on any one specific page. It can be done right in the news feed, but I'll just, use us as an example. So let's take this again. You saw that this post over on Facebook. We did a blog post on the big marketing stories of last week. So the different ways that I can interact with this post. Number one is I can reply. So let's say you don't know Adaptive, but you say, hey, this is really good. If you want to speak directly to Adaptive and say, great points, you can do it this way, again, because it's at Adaptive. So it's going to go directly to them, and anyone that sees both of us will be able to see it. If I want everyone to see this, I could put a dot at Adaptive IMS, great points. So that's one way to do it, is if you're having that conversation, again, with a person, with a company, with whatever. The next is you could say, you know what, this is really good stuff. I want to retweet it. Again, yes, you can share it like we did on LinkedIn and on Facebook, but make sure you actually say something. So why are you retweeting this? Hey, as an example of this, we talked about Mobilegeddon, the big Google algorithm change last week. So you could say something about, Mobilegeddon is here. Are you ready? Read this. So again, tell people why you're sharing the stuff that you are. And then finally, you can favorite, and that just basically says, hey, I approve of what you've put up there, and you can actually go in and see all the things that have been favorited. So again, the different ways to go about interacting with Twitter messages. Two other things I'll say real quickly about kind of etiquette on Twitter. Number one is the message function. Yes, you have the ability with LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter to direct message somebody, sort of like email. I would say on LinkedIn, it's extremely acceptable. It's, as long as you are connected with the person. Facebook is not used very much at all. With Twitter, I would say almost never. I can't think of a great exception on why you would go into the message function, unless you've been interacting with someone a lot. You have a good relationship with them. You say, hey, I'd really like to connect with you. Besides that, stay away from the messages and just really have the public conversation online. The other thing with the messages, and it's a pet peeve. I know there's different schools of thought, but not many people that I've talked to appreciate the auto messages. What you can do in Twitter is set up auto messages. So someone, for instance, follows you, you can send out a, hey, thank you for following me type message. Those are very ineffective. There's a lot of stats out there that say what I'm saying. So stay away from them. There's no reason to automate your interactions and your conversation on Twitter. So really, I would just say, please just stay away from that as much as you can. Okay, back to the presentation. So after we've dug in, what I want to do is just, again, kind of hit a few hacks, tricks, tips, however you want to call them. But if this is kind of giving you the motivation to get out there, and you see this and you go, it's not that tough. It's not that tough to share information or interact and like people's content or connect with them or share things. If you're looking at that, you say, okay, great. Patrick, it's not as scary anymore. I can certainly do this on my own. But what do I do? How do I get started? There's a few things I'll say. Number one is about expanding your reach. So whether you have 10 followers on any given network or 10,000, what you want to do is you want to actively connect. The great thing about the 3 networks that we hit, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, they all give you suggestions, and it's very, very tailored based on the connections you already have. So all 3 have a section that suggests people to follow. So go out there on a regular basis and see who you might know, or find people that you find to be interesting. LinkedIn, that's going to be a place where you want to connect with people that you actually know. Don't just go out there and start connecting with everyone they suggest. It's more private as far as connections go. Facebook, same thing. Twitter, follow anyone you want. Follow people that you admire. Follow companies that you interact with. If you're a big, runner, and you like Newton running shoes, then go follow them, and maybe they'll tweet back at you. JC and I would say they won't, because we've tried it, but go out there and just connect with people and companies and organizations that interest you. The next thing is follow people that are interacting with you. So especially on Twitter, if people are mentioning you, or sharing your content, certainly go follow them back. And also look at your employees, look at your clients, look at people that you interact with in the real world, and connect with them on social media as well. The next thing is monitoring. So monitor what's going on. There are a lot of tools out there. We prefer HubSpot, but there's a lot of different tools and resources available that help you monitor conversations, not just about you, your organization, but the industry you're in. And there's a lot of ways to find out what's not only being said about you and your organization, but questions people have about your industry. And so it's a great way for you to insert your expertise in conversations that are going on in places where you have great information and great experience to share. And finally, the other thing, as far as tips are concerned, is people say, okay, great, I understand it, I want to connect, but what the heck am I going to say? And so I'll give you a few ideas. Number one is, back to your industry. Look at industry news, look at local news, and just like I showed you, share articles that are being put out there. So as an example, if you're in insurance, share things that are going out via Business 360, Insurance Journal, Rough Notes, anything that you think is relevant to your network, share it, but have something to say. So number one, kind of show your expertise in the field that you're in your job and your career. Number two is your passions. Act like a human being, not just an insurance or financial planning robot. Show people who you are, what you're passionate about. If you like the Jags, like the Jaguars, share things about them. If you're into triathlon, or it could be something very obscure. If you did your thesis in college and you're fascinated with the 20th century Russian mystic Rasputin, share that. It doesn't really matter what it is, but just let people know what you're interested in. The next thing is your organization, your company. Hopefully your company, your agency, or brokerage is putting out some great content, blog content, white papers, premium content. Share that, interact with that. And finally, interact and share things that are happening with your clients, your partners. There's a wealth of information out there, and as I showed early on in the session, there's not a lack of things to share or comment on. And so start there. You don't have to be a content creating machine out there creating a bunch of original content. Just go out there and share things that are relevant to your network, and just give little bite-sized pieces of your thought on it, and you'll be much further ahead than a lot of your competition. So in closing, before we open it up, if there were any questions and answers, but this is what I'll say. With social media, again, hopefully you saw this and you went, it's not that complicated. So if you're sort of over that hump of, okay, I can do this, bring your personality, your brand, and your expertise online. Don't look at this as a one-dimensional, I'm going to share things that are specific to, for us, marketing. If all I did was share marketing information all day, every day, it just wouldn't be that compelling, wouldn't be that remarkable. Let people know who you are, and bring you, the person that you are offline, bring it online. And the final thing is act the way that you would in real life. I've seen just very crazy things happen online because it's online. Don't quote yourself. I don't think any of us are important enough. I don't know of anyone anywhere that is important enough to quote yourself. You wouldn't do that in the real world. So don't do it online. Just act appropriately and act the way that you would offline. And this sign pretty much wraps it up for me. Don't stop believing. This stuff is very important for your career. It's very important for you to manage your personal brand, and it's a very, very effective tool in selling or managing, your presence. So don't stop believing, and certainly, please, if you have additional questions, here's our contact information, and again, we'll send it to you after the session, but you can go to our website. You can connect with us on Twitter, email either info@jc@ or patrick@adaptive, and these are all the ways to connect with us. But we are here as a resource for specifically our clients, of course. But anyway, if you have questions, please ask us. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you have about anything that we covered, or maybe something that you hoped we cover that we didn't today. So with that, I want to say thank you again to our clients, to Insight, and everyone else, all of our special guests that came on with us today. And thanks for your time.